Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturer Studio here at Smart Manufacturing Week. We have another interviewee over. I'm joined by Marco Chacin of Airbus. Marco, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Are you enjoying the show so far?
Oh, well, great. I mean, I wasn't expecting so much people, but it's clearly, this is a major show.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, you're going to be, I'm going to be joining you on stage a little later on in the day. There's going to be a panel discussion. Could you give us a little bit of an idea of it and some of the key themes that you think will be explored in the session?
So in the panel, obviously there's a lot of interesting things that we're going to be going through. We're probably going to be looking into the impact of automation and robotics in the near future. There's been a boom in AI over the last few years and how that will impact what we do day to day, not just in aerospace but other industries as well. And I'm hoping that we can get into the risks and opportunities for automation in general for multiple areas. I know there will be other people there in the panel with me joining and sharing their ideas.
Yeah, fantastic. No, it should be interesting. Well, let's talk about that evolution piece, because automation and robotics have been around for a while now, but how do you see them evolving as we progress?
So clearly there's been, as I said a minute ago, there's been a lot of hype after the AI boom from 2 or 3 years ago. We didn't have some of these tools in the 2010s or the 2000s. So there's a lot of more computing power coming online now. And so I believe that will play a critical role, especially in sensors and perception technology. Automation in terms of mechanical systems in my opinion, have peaked in terms of what we can do. However, in getting those systems to understand better their environment and being able to adapt and do things that we're able to do until very recently is going to be a major game-changing technology.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know, obviously a company like Airbus, I'm sure automation is very much integral to your process. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about what goes on at Airbus in terms of automation?
So obviously we'll talk about a little bit more of this later in the panel, but Airbus is in an industry that has a very interesting element to it, which is we don't make more money because we don't make more planes. Right, so every year we leave a lot of money on the table because we're not physically able to do more. And clearly, the solution to this is not to make another line, it's to optimize and automate what we already have. So we're thinking about this for the future, we're thinking about this now for the legacy builds. It's obviously a challenge because a lot of the so-called greenfield or the opportunities that were there were taken probably years ago, or best-selling product was designed more than 30 years ago now. So again, the evolution of automation will make a big impact in what we do in the next product, and also we're trying to implement some of that or test some of that in the current production industrial system.
Just in terms of the human workforce, and we hear quite a lot of fear around. And there was fear when automation and robotics first came onto the scene, and now the AI boom, as you mentioned. A lot of people fearful that this is going to replace jobs. How do you see that relationship? Because the manufacturers that we talk to, actually, they see it very much as a human augmentation tool. It's humans working with these sorts of systems and technologies.
Right, so we see it, the company sees it in the same way. My job is not to replace people, it's to help them through that journey. Give them better jobs. There'll clearly be an evolution of the jobs they do today. Today we have people doing jobs that you wouldn't want your kid to do, right? So not just going inside of constrained environments, but also on quite uncomfortable situations as well. We want to replace those specific areas with automation, right? Yes, there's a lot of negativity in the media about what automation can do, but I think that the story is not completely told all the time. It's stopped at the fact that automation will replace some jobs, but we've seen in other industries over and over again that every time we bring automation, sure that you might see a small dip, but then long term, you actually generate more jobs as people come online to do things that they were not able to do before because automation is now helping them do so.
Yeah, look, you mentioned AI. And AI and machine learning, there is kind of real excitement around how it can turbocharge manufacturing. What are the realities of that, though, and how is it actually being used in practical terms at the moment?
Clearly, this is different from industry to industry. In the case of aerospace, we're very careful with this because one of the low-hanging fruits for AI is to be able to do inspections, for example, right? It's clearly something that a machine could do. However, getting that through the certifying body to make sure that a plane is being inspected by a machine before it actually flies, I think we're still a long way from that. We are trying, in small pockets here and there to just test the technology, but the main thing we want to be able to look at is into the actual manufacture, the actual assembly of aircraft, which is something more deterministic that, sure, we will need AI in order to help us, but still human intervention will be necessary, right? So we feel more confident about those right now. I think that will change over time, but it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, and then that sort of factory of the future vision, and again, this probably will depend on what industry you work in, but do you really see it ever being fully automated? Surely there's going to be collaboration at every point, even in the future.
Absolutely. I don't see it completely automated. There are many processes that will be very difficult to do for machines, for systems themselves. The cooperation between humans and AI systems or robots and automation systems will always be there to some degree or another. Sure, you see today very automated factories in Asia, for example, in Korea, in China, and Japan, where you see robots making other robots or making completely automated. And that is possible only because the product is made so that it can be automated. It's in manufacturing, so the design for automation aspect is going to be key. Some areas will have it simpler than others. This is very difficult to do for an aircraft, for example, same for a car. But for smaller components, this is where you're probably going to see a boom, or motors, sensors, smaller things. We struggle with that because our components tend to be very big.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's fantastic to have you and a company like Airbus represented here, and there's some other fantastic individuals and companies that are present at Smart Manufacturing Week. Why do you think that's important? Why do you think we need to come together in this way? We often talk about solving the big problems of manufacturing can only be done through collaboration. What are the strengths of these sorts of shows?
So we talk about how are we going to make robotics and automation better in the future, but we barely speak about how we're going to make the human better in the future too. So the upskilling of the people that are today doing the job, and how we're going to bring them in that journey into doing something different, something that a machine couldn't do, is rarely spoken about. And so this is part of one of my hats in Airbus as part of the organization, and making sure that there's a learning path for those people that want to get into that, and making sure that they are on par with the automation that's coming through in the near future. So an event like this is important because you're probably going to see a lot of students coming through, people on the early careers. We want them to know that, sure, there's a lot happening, but it's not impossible to catch up. It's especially if you're starting your career, the sooner you get into this, the more impactful it will be for you, and the more impactful will be for your future job as well. So this is definitely the right place to be at the moment.